It's because it's news frog hours right now. They don't know what fun or joy is. Yeah. And also, the other part of this conversation is that, like it or not, I get paid to play video games. Okay. That puts me in the professional gaming category, whether you appreciate it, whether you think I suck or not. And I do suck. I know I suck. I'm not very good at it. But, that is what it is. I'm a professional gamer. I thought Walking Dead was boring, but Batman has been awesome. Walking Dead was great too. But to each their own, I guess. Anyway. Chatters are really learning the wrong things from Shelter Rosebud. Yeah. I know Drake rapped over BBL Drizzy. I know. We'll do it. We'll do all of that. Hasan, you don't suck. No, I don't. I don't suck. I'm saying I suck at a lot of video games. I'm not very good at video games. The thing is, I'm not very good at a lot of things. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I've never been I've never been really good at anything naturally. Everything that I have become good at, I've become good at through just unimaginable amounts of repetition. I am incredibly stubborn and will just fucking lock in, shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down, and just do what needs to be done. And that's usually how I arrive at success in any capacity. That's it. Even sex? Yes, even sex. Ask your mom. I mean, think about it this way. Are you naturally good at public speaking? Fuck no. I was actually devastatingly bad. I was so bad on camera at first. I was so bad at speaking. No. It took years for me to get to a competent place. Part of the reason why I started on this platform to begin with was so that I could, have a reason to consistently talk uninterrupted for hours on end. So that's it. That's I became what is this? Basketball discourse? That's crazy. That's disrespectful to Lud, I'll be honest. Yeah, I found you in 2020, and even now when I watch old streams, you've gotten so good. Just many chatters who have been here for a while don't see the change. They have to go back to see because it's gradual. I guess. Were you a quiet person? No. There are people who are naturally good at a lot of things. Will Neff. Okay? Will Neff. He's a hard worker, for sure, but he's also very naturally gifted. He's always been naturally gifted ever since I've known him. Right? I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people at all. I've never been good at anything. I have literally never had a single fucking thing in my entire life. I guess maybe drawing. That was the only thing that I was good at naturally. That's it. But beyond that, even if you and even with drawing, it's if you stop doing it for years and years, which I have, then you suck, and I do. So that's it. It's not a thing. I've never had that. I've never been a naturally gifted person in any field, and whether it be basketball or anything else, it takes a long ass fucking time to get to that point where you're confident. But this has been popping off all over the internet too. What is that? What? What is this? This is literally one of those like bot fucking. This is not popping off on the internet. Okay, what the hell is this? My dad is in prison for life. He's 87. I tried to contact him recently. I just want to talk to him, but he keeps sending me the same letter telling me to get this info to a physicist. This is a new way to make energy. I'm pretty smart and makes no sense to me. Any insights? Sick, man. I love these like fucking weird AI bot accounts that just like spam shit that was popping 20 months ago. Is this worth getting canceled for Kaya in Japan's?
A new airline for your dog took its first flight Thursday.
Oh, I know what this is. I already looked this up. The problem is they only fly to London or Los Angeles to New York. You think I'm not aware of this, bro? Let me tell you, I already am. This was an Instagram ad of mine, okay? Instagram knows exactly what I'm invested in, okay? It's always hair pills and fucking private airlines for your dog.
Bark Air gives dogs a luxury experience on charter flights. And yes, their owners do get to join them. Dogs will get water or bone broth beverage choices as well as treats on board. Dogs will also have access to amenities like calming jackets and noise-canceling earmuffs. Right now, routes are available between Westchester County Airport in New York, the Van Nuys Airport in Los Angeles, and an airport in London. Flights start—
See? Told you. This is they literally, it's a private jet. They just charter a PJ and and it's like $5,000 a pop or something. I don't know how much it is. I think it's around that, which is insanely expensive, but it's also ironically the same price as like I think it's or maybe more than $5,000. I think it's probably higher than $5,000. It's literally, if it's $5,000, then it's and if you're doing it like once a year or something, if you're like traveling, it makes sense, I guess. But I think it's like 8 to 10K to go to London, which is literally the same fucking price if you're getting like a last second business class ticket or a first class ticket to London. But ultimately, not once a year, sorry, once in your life. This is such a rich a-hole convo, Lamau. I know, it is. It's ultimately a ridiculous thing to do. But if you have no other option, and if you have to do it once in your life, where you have to travel from one coast to the other, I said once a year on accident. If you had to travel once in your life and go coast to fucking coast with your dog, then yeah, it's very expensive, but it kind of makes sense. Yeah, the real fucking incredible shit here is like, imagine being a flight attendant for this flight. It's so sick. Like, imagine being a flight attendant. Majority Report, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Just drive. Yeah, it's just, first of all, just drive is long as fuck, bro. What do you mean? Fuck you mean just drive? That's like, I think it's like a one shot would be like 48 hours. Also, how do you just drive to London? I don't know. Do you just drive your car into a fucking ferry? Like what are you doing? If you're taking your dog on a long drive, it's tough for them too. I mean, Kai doesn't give a shit about the car. She loves it. So that's not a problem. In any case, yeah, this is probably going to not work. I wish there were more flights though that they offered.
The first dog-focused airline, also the makers behind BarkBox, hopes to launch more routes in the future.
Take a cruise like the rest of the plebs. I've looked into it. The ferries that take cars don't exist. However, ships that take dogs do. My doggo does not like the car. She pants the whole time and is likely anxious. Yeah. The back of the Tay can just absolutely demolished with dog hair. Yeah. Dude, let me tell you. The back of my Tay can is so fucking busted. It is full of slobber and dog hair. I don't even give a shit. That's Kaya's seat. Okay. The back of the Tay can is for Kaya and Kaya alone. Okay. Don't give a shit. You don't towel up your back seats when you put Kaya on? No, because that shit doesn't matter. Okay, let me tell you something. I've had a dog before Kaya as well, and I had the Camry. And in the back of the Camry, I used to try and like not even put a towel down, but like get one of those like plastic covers, all this shit. It doesn't fucking work, dude. It doesn't work. I just gave up. Hair always finds a way of just, you know, getting around whatever barrier that you're trying to set down. Plus, also, the windows are covered to the fucking brim with slobber. It really doesn't matter. Ruining an expensive car with a dog is a pretty rich thing to do, so you're doing fine. I mean, one, I can just get it detailed if I want to. And two, ultimately, you know, I just don't give a shit. I don't care. I just don't care. I make $100K a year and I let my Huskies ruin my car. It's not about wealth. Yeah, I know. It's so funny that people are being like, oh, that's rich people shit. It's like, dude, I just told you when I was broke as fuck and I had a Camry and I was living in the goddamn kitchen of a frat house. I still, you know, I let fish fuck the back, the back seat of that car up too. So like, it's more of a, I think it's just more of a, like a dog owner thing. Anyway. So let's get to it. Let's get to the news, ladies and gentlemen. Yup, it's the same. You have a Porsche now, but in the past it was your Camry. Exactly. Only surviving on 100K Sag. Brother, we live in Joe Brandon's America. Depending on where you live in Joe Brandon's America, $100,000 no longer, you know, keeps you afloat. That's like straight up, depending on where you live, it's like you're probably dumping all of that into your fucking rent, dude. Israeli minister lose it over Spain. Deputy prime minister saying from the river to the sea. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, just Israeli leadership being normal again. I love that. Love to see it. Love to see it, folks. If their timelines overlapped, how do you imagine Fish and Kaya would have gotten along? They're both goofy as hell and both big, lovable goofs, so they would have probably loved having fun with each other. They would have played a lot. Anyway, all right, let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, UN's top court, the International Court of Justice, has dished out a little bit of justice. They are ordering Israel to halt military operations in Rafah. Of course, Israel is not going to comply with that. Let's be for fucking real. But here it is.
I'm Geetha Gurumurthy. We begin in The Hague, where judges at the International Court of Justice, that's the United Nations top court, have just ruled that Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and other actions in Rafah, citing the immediate risk to the Palestinian people. It also ruled that Hamas must immediately and unconditionally release its hostages. Let's listen to what the judge, who was speaking in the past half an hour, had to say.
The court recalls that in accordance with Article 75, paragraph 2 of its rules, when a request for the indication of provisional measures has been made, it has the power under its statute to indicate measures that are not in whole or in part other than those requested. In the present case, having considered the terms of the provisional measures requested by South Africa and the circumstances of the case, the court found that the measures to be indicated need not be identical to those requested. The court considered that, in conformity with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in hope.
What? Do you think that Hamas has made threats against the UN court and that's why they're ruling on it like this? No, I don't think that. I think it's because Israel's actions are so genocidal and so apparent, like so flagrantly genocidal, which is weird to say. I guess there's like a level of genocidal sentiment and ideation that you can engage with that basically is considered to be, something that you can turn a blind eye to. That is the reason why I believe they're doing this, though. I think that they are doing this not because they're threatened by Hamas or some shit. If anything, they're more so threatened by America. Like, literally, America is openly antagonistic to both the ICC and the ICJ at this point, and the UN, and anyone and everyone that dares go against Israel. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, the circumstances that we're experiencing. It's like if all of these international organs of justice that we created in the aftermath of World War II existed pre-World War II, and like Nazi Germany was the hegemonic superpower and utilized those organs to basically conduct its genocidal affairs and use those international courts and these international organs of justice to basically prop up whatever the fuck they were doing and legitimize whatever the fuck they were doing. It is actually crazy.
All or in part. The court recalls that in its order of January 26, 2024, it ordered Israel inter alia to, I quote, take effective measures to prevent the destruction and ensure the preservation of evidence related to allegations of acts within the scope of Article 2 and Article 3 of the Genocide Convention, end of quote. In the present circumstances, the court is also of the view that in order to preserve...
They can demand it, but does that mean Israel will have to listen and halt military offensive? No, Israel will not have to listen. It's like when I tell you that there's a 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour, it doesn't mean that you have to subscribe to avoid it, right? Like, you can just see the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour and that'll be fine for you. For some people, it's all right. For others, though, if you don't want to see the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime or by getting gifted a sub. If you are lucky, here's a 3-minute ad break now. Once again, as I have mentioned time and time again, Jacob Johns, thank you for the 5-tier-1 gift to subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. This is not about like who has the power. There is only one group that has the power. There's only one country that can enforce any kind of regulation in this process. That country is the United States of America. Its refusal to do so means that Israel has the go-ahead and will continue to do whatever the fuck it wants to. Okay? That's it. The UN doesn't matter. The ICJ doesn't matter. The ICC doesn't matter. None of this shit matters. If the rest of the world could universally say, no, fuck Israel, they're not allowed to do this, it's bullshit. And if America said, nah, you're wrong, Israel gets to do whatever it wants, then Israel could do whatever the fuck it wants. However, this is still incredibly significant, just like the ICC arrest warrants and the application even of an arrest warrant for an Israeli leader is massively consequential, massively significant, a genuine sea change. This is also massively consequential and very significant. Why? Because it is yet another step in the right direction. It is a change of course from international organs of justice. It is going against American hegemony. All of this is very important. Okay? Even if the Security Council decided, well, in a world where, let's say, America had removed themselves from the Security Council and the UN Security Council decided to enforce a ceasefire, Israel could still do whatever the fuck it wanted to. The only reason why the UN Security Council and its decisions would be important is because America's on the Security Council, and when America doesn't veto a thing against Israel, that means America is openly stating Israel has gone too far. That's it. If we undermine the significance of this, there's a corollary question for people to ask themselves. What does a protest directly accomplish? Yes. This is massively consequential, just like all of the protests are massively consequential. All of this is important. Like I said, there are many different vectors of pressure, and it is important to hit this issue on all fronts. Okay? Public pressure in the form of protests and international pressure from these organs of justice, from leaders of countries in the Western world, leaders that are firmly inside of the imperial core. All of this is massively important in moving the needle in the right direction. Why don't you go to a protest then? Famously, I hate going to protests, and I never attend protests. Thank you, Chatter, for living in your own schizophrenic world where you have hallucinated that. I hope that was an ad debate, even though we already ran the ad break. Following since today, though, I suspect that he's just here to talk shit. 15-minute follower, following since today. Doubtful that this person is, legitimately saying that. Glue trap bubble, live in a bubble. What? Anyway, this is like the chatter the other day that refused to look at a whole video and not just a clip. Yeah, I know. I was timed out for a week because I said AOC's a neocon. That's extremely heavy-handed by your mods. AOC's a neocon? Bro, first of all, how are you tweeting or how are you posting if you're timed out for a week? That's number one. And number two, what the fuck do you mean? I had to make a new account, lol. We know. That was not a real question. I know how you're posting in the chat. Now this is gonna get banned too, most likely. But you're insane for saying AOC's a neocon. They probably timed you out for a week because they did not want you to say even more unhinged shit. Why is she so hawkish towards Russia? Yeah, I know. That I think being hawkish towards Russia does not make one a neocon. I'm just going to, I need you to understand words have meaning. Okay? Like being aligned with the American State Department on against Russia, it depends on like what kind of energy you're placing, especially considering that the Progressive Caucus literally pushed originally for a pretty apt provision that they immediately had to go back on because they got fucking bullied. But they also talked about conditional aid to Ukraine with the goal of like reaching a ceasefire agreement. If you remember, the Progressive Caucus did that, and immediately everyone was like, "You guys are fucking crazy." Blah, 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 blah. But Jesus Christ. Libs on Twitter are creaming their pants over Caitlin Collins, pressuring Theodore Jebediah Cruz. Oh, Charlotte Ladder Climber. I'm blocked by her. That's awesome. We'll look at that in a little bit. Let's just continue with this.
Evidence related to allegations of acts falling within the scope of Article 2 and Article 3 of the Genocide Convention, Israel must take effective measures.
Why do you sneeze like my baba? It's because I'm uncoded. I'm in uncle territory, and I think the older you get, the more insane your sneezes get. Actually, it's very like, it's something that happens when you get older. Like, I still remember how terrified I was when my grandfather would sneeze from the other room because it felt like the entire house was shaking. I don't know what it is, but the older you get, the more powerful your sneezes become. And I genuinely don't know what the fuck that is about, but it's just a thing that happens. How you sneeze is a choice. Prove me wrong. That's insane.
To ensure the unimpeded access to the Gaza Strip of any commission of inquiry, fact-finding mission, or other investigative body mandated by competent organs of the United Nations to investigate allegations of genocide.
I'm going to pee.
The judge there, the ICJ, just to give you some initial responses, David Mercer, spokesperson for the Israeli government, has said there is no power in the world that will push us to commit a public suicide, because that's what this is, to stop our war against Hamas. That's repeating a line that would, of course, a consistent line that we've heard from the Israeli government, who I think are meeting now. There was a call for Mr. Netanyahu to meet his top ministers. And Hamas, as reported by the Reuters news agency, has said that they welcome the ICJ plan to send the investigation committee into Gaza. They say they would promise any cooperation that they can give. And they have said that they welcome the decision on Rafah, saying it doesn't go far enough. It's urging an end for Israel's offensive on all of Gaza, and looking at whether the Security Council will now look to try and implement this ruling. Well, let's get more now. Our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams is in Jerusalem, and he told us more about the immediate reaction there in Israel.
If this was the measure that was anticipated, with some debate as to whether or not the court would finally take that additional step. No official reaction from the government so far. It's due to discuss this ruling later today. There is a reaction from the hardline finance minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who has called it irrelevant, and he's dismissed the court.
Itamar Ben-Gvir is not the hardline finance minister. That's Smotrich. Itamar Ben-Gvir is interior security. But like national security. But it doesn't even matter. The idea that like Israel did not respond to this is so funny, because they definitely did respond to it. They immediately started bombing. Like, that's a response, man. Wait, what the fuck? Why didn't this work? What is happening? I'm clicking on the actual fucking link and it's like taking me to something very different. I don't know why. I grew up with a kid that sneezed like an old man. One day when he's 80, he'll sneeze and the world will just disappear. Okay, can we just move away from the sneeze discourse and get back to the matter at hand here? Here's the thing, okay? They did respond. They responded by doing the most Israel thing that you can do. Which is to continue bombing. They literally were like, "Oh yeah, dude? Oh yeah? Oh, you want us to stop doing what? Bombing Palestinians? Sorry, not going to happen." In the first response to the International Court of Justice decision, intense Israeli airstrikes hit amidst the tents of displaced persons in Al-Mawazi area near the city of Han Yunis. Their immediate response was to fucking continue, the bombing campaign. which is, of course, as we've talked about before, very, very fucking Israel. The ICJ ruled today that Israel must immediately halt its military offensive in Rafah. A question for the Biden admin now. Does it attack the legitimacy of an international court for the second time in a week, even after setting its own red lines on an attack in Rafah? Biden has a choice between dismantling the international rule-based order that he had been so keen to preserve when Russia invaded Ukraine, or throwing it away at the service of a deeply unpopular war carried by its ally. Yeah. And, you know, it's really shitty that the International Court of Justice is not doing what it's supposed to do, which is just shut the fuck up and allow us and our allies to do whatever we fucking want and never criticize us or our allies. So I don't really understand what's going on here. The rule-based international order is falling apart right in front of our eyes, everybody. It almost feels like it was fabricated specifically to make liberals feel good about the potential rules and order that we were dishing out. Also, the U.S. judge at the International Court of Justice, Sarah Cleveland, voted in favor of today's order for Israel to halt its offensive on Gaza's Rafah. Biden nominated Cleveland to the State Department's legal advisor in 2021, but she was never confirmed. When elected to be an ICJ judge last November, the top U.S. diplomat, Secretary Blinken, praised the court as a guardian of international law, and Biden had said the ICJ was one of humanity's most critical institutions to advance peace around the world. But what you failed to recognize there is that back then we were using the ICJ against Russia as God intended, as America intended. For years and years, I have told you, and many of my naysayers got so mad every time I said all of these international organs of justice and many of the actual NGOs, for example, 100% up until the October 7, were simply operating at the behest of the American interests, at the behest of America's State Department interests. Okay? Everyone would immediately go, Hasan, how dare you say that? These guys are abiding by the rules. There's like standards that we're setting. No, those standards have always been historically used against whoever we declare war on, while we openly violate said standards on a regular fucking basis. And now you are seeing it. You're seeing that reality. You are experiencing that reality in broad fucking daylight. The one time that these courts are actually doing their fucking job evenly, okay, with minor criticisms, by the way, not even taking maximalist positions that I would take in the face of actual ethnic cleansing, okay, you're seeing that global order fall apart. The idea that we care about said global order falls apart. Of course, if you were a child, if you were a fucking child, you maybe didn't recognize that none of this shit mattered when we already had a law in the book since 2002 that says if any of our guys or allies are ever prosecuted for war crimes at the Hague, at the ICC, we will literally invade a NATO nation. We will invade the Hague. That is the law. Since 2002. Why the fuck would we have ever given a shit about, like, why did anybody ever even care about the notion that America actually cares about democracy and cares about defending peace in the world and yada, yada, yada?
As anti-Semitic. These are the sorts of remarks you would expect to hear from some of Mr. Netanyahu's more hardline colleagues. But when it comes to the order to halt the Rafah offensive, I think we can expect a big fat no from the government here. And I think
it is pretty ridiculous, by the way, that the ICJ now is literally, the ICJ currently is basically reasserting the red line that the American government put on Israel. It's not like they're saying halt all operations in Gaza. They're saying red line, American red line of invading and like sieging Rafah is a red line that we would like to enforce. And yet, that is a bridge too far for Israel again and again and again. It's very odd. What will America do? A very tricky position, considering that Joe Brandon himself said that this was his red line. Let's see how the American government reacts to it.
They will probably complain that the court, in coming to its conclusions, only cited what the UN had told them about the situation in southern Gaza. The Israelis have been arguing for some time that they are taking steps, notwithstanding their military operation in Gaza, that they are taking steps to improve the provision of food and goods into the Gaza Strip. It's very noticeable, for example, that for the 3 weeks or so after May the 7th, when the order to launch the offensive in Rafah began, only about 140 trucks of UN aid entered through the Keren Shalom crossing, the most important crossing point from Israel. But, and this was something the court did not refer to, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trucks of commercial foodstuffs have gone in through that.
Seems to me that the BBC is being more skeptical of the anti-Semitic claims made by Israel. Am I just imagining this, or are they finally caving to the left a tiny bit? They're not caving to the left, man. It's just unconscionable. Israel's actions are truly unimaginably cruel. So cruel that, yes, these guys who actually care about maintaining the presence of order in an international rule-based order have to inevitably say, okay, well, they're kind of fucking up a little bit. There is no caving to the left. It's just caving to, I guess, reality.
That very same route, allowed in by Israel, escorted by armed guards inside the Gaza Strip, and taken into the marketplace in Gaza. There is food to be had in places. A lot of Gazans can't afford it, but that was an element of Israel's response to the situation in Gaza that the court simply didn't allude to. They also obviously did not allude to Israel's military rationale for attacking Gaza, the complete dismantling of the last remaining battalions of Hamas, and the importance, Israel would say, of securing the border between Gaza and Egypt to prevent the smuggling of weapons, which could lead to a few.
I just got here, but the South African judge, Talidi, in the majority, did interpret it as a full ceasefire. Seems a little absurd that there's such confusion and vagueness over such a crucial part of the decisions. I mean, regardless of whether or not it's a full ceasefire or just a ceasefire in Rafah, it doesn't matter, because even the ceasefire in Rafah is seemingly not something that like Israel is interested in following.
Future conflict. Now, all of this was not referred to by the court. The court obviously feels that of in excess of 800,000 people, we think it's probably closer to 1 million by now, is evidence of the increased risk to life and well-being of a huge proportion of the Palestinian population of the Gaza Strip. And that was enough to persuade those judges who had not been persuaded so far to say enough is enough, this operation has to stop.
Paul Adams there speaking to us a bit earlier from Jerusalem. And just to let you know that since we spoke to Paul, David Menzer, who's a spokesperson for the Israeli government, did give some reaction to the news to the BBC. And he said there is no power in the world that will push us to commit a public suicide, because that's what this is, to stop our war against.
I do love how dramatic Israel is. Like they have a penchant for drama that I do appreciate. Like if they weren't, if they weren't deploying this at the behest of their genocidal ambition, I would laugh and enjoy it. Like they literally are just like, dude, you're oh, wow, that's right. International Court of Justice. Where is the justice? You are making me kill myself. Is that what you want? I bet you would love it if I killed myself. You are Hamas. It's so funny. It's like, dude, if you don't let me kill 3 school buses full of children every fucking day, it's basically akin to my own personal Holocaust. You want me to kill myself. Just say it. You hate me. Say it. It's awesome. We will die if we stop killing 3 school buses full of children. You are gaslighting. You are doing emotional abuse.
Hamas. We understand the Israeli government are meeting or going to be meeting soon to discuss this ruling. We've also had reports on Reuters of Hamas reaction. Hamas apparently calling on the UN Security Council to implement the ICJ Court of Justice decision, welcoming the ruling and welcoming the call for an investigation, an inquiry, saying that they would cooperate with that. Also, we've had a response from the Palestinian Authority saying they welcome the decision, as again reported by Reuters news agency, saying that it represents an international consensus to end the war on the Gaza Strip, according to a